Hi everyone, welcome to our event. This event is brought to you by Data Talks Club, which is a community of people who love data. We have weekly events, and today is one of such events. If you want to find out more about the events we have, there is a link in the description. Go there, check it out. Then do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This way you will stay up to date with all our future streams like the one we have today. And last but not least, we have an amazing Slack community where you can hang out with other data enthusiasts, so check it out too. And during today's interview, you can ask any question you want. There is a pinned link in the live chat. Click on this link, ask your questions, and we will be covering these questions during the interview. And I just noticed my nose is a bit blocked. I hope nobody can notice it. So, Lavanya, you'll be talking most of the time, so I'll just need to ask you questions. So I hope it will not be a problem. Okay, and now I'm opening the questions. And if you are ready, we can start.
Yeah, sure.
So, So this week we'll talk about building a strong career in data, and we have a special guest today, Lavanya. Lavanya is a Carnegie Mellon University alumni. She currently works as a senior applied associate at JP Morgan Chase in their specialized machine learning center of excellence. Her latest research on long context evaluation of LLM was published in EMNLP 2024. EMNLP, I guess it's a conference, right?
Yes.
Great. So
Empirical method, NLP,
you'll tell
yes.
us more. Yeah, how about that? So welcome to the show, Lavanya.
Thank you. Great to meet all of you. Yes.
Yeah. So the questions for today's interview are prepared by Johanna Bayer. Thanks, Johanna, for your help as always. And before we go into our main topic of building a strong career in data, let's start with your background. Can you tell us about your career journey so far?
Yeah, happy to share my journey. I think I'll keep it short for now. So I
We'll
after
have a
my
lot of questions about that.
yes,
Hmm.
we can delve deeper into the interesting parts. But overall, I finished my undergrad back in India in 2016. I worked for a couple of years as a software engineer until I got my interest peaked in AI, ML, or data science. Back then, it was more of data sciencey stuff. So in 2018, I decided to make a switch from my SD profile to an ML profile. Worked for a year or so back in India again until I decided to change my mind again and pursue my master's. So then I came to the US, did my master's from Carnegie Mellon, and here I'm now working with JP Morgan in their ML vertical. Yeah, that's quickly a short overview about my story, but we can talk more of the interesting parts. Yes.
Yeah, because today's so this is a typical question we asked, and for me it's like I don't know, I need your reaction. So every time we start, I start with this question. But since today's interview is mostly about your career, so this question is kind of like for
Yes.
the entire interview. But how did you actually become interested in machine learning and AI? Was there a specific moment or a specific project that sparked your curiosity?
Yeah, definitely. The interesting part is that while I was doing my undergrad, I had zero courses in ML or data science. This is back in 2016. So I think there were like very few specialized people doing ML that time. And then I joined my regular SD role with HSBC until I participated in hackathons. So it was just coming up, and my interest peaked through vision. Although now I'm deep into NLP, but I started my journey in ML with vision models. So, ImageNet and those kind of things back in 2016, 17, they were really hot and popular. So I participated in a lot of hackathons within my firm, wherein we were given this liberty of experimenting with new things that were coming up apart from my regular role. So that's, I think, definitely a clear moment for me where my interests got peaked over a period of 2 or 3 years participating in hackathons. Yes.
Mhm. Do you remember any of the projects you did there?
Yeah, I think the one project that has stood out, or in fact also got converted into one of the project products in the bank, was like a OCR model. So the bank receives when they onboard customers, they used to receive something that we called organization charts. So it's typically like a flow chart kind of diagram you can imagine, but pretty complicated also back in 2016, right? So no fancier LLMs back then. So we had like really specific models first, which could parse this complicated org structure to find out the relationships between entities and then kind of auto-populate this form, like what is the hierarchy of that organization, the board directors, the people working under, who is reporting to who. So this complicated flow chart, we had vision models which could first extract like these boxes, then some arrow connections. So we used depth first search, BFS, DFS kind of algorithms to find those connections. And then finally some OCR through Google API, Google Cloud, I think we were using that time to extract out the text within these boxes and then finally put all of it together to, interpret what that diagram looks like. So looks
Amazing.
pretty, yeah, looks pretty naive for today, 10 years down the line, but very, very interesting stuff back then.
I mean, like, if you ask me now how to solve this problem, I wouldn't. Of course, like you can just send it to ChatGPT or like
Yes.
I don't know, any LLM and say, hey, like give me the org chart, and probably it will just work. But
Yes.
apart from that, like I have zero idea of how to actually approach that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you were a developer, so
Hmm.
might you even probably had, if I have zero idea now, you probably even had less
Yeah.
idea.
So the approach
Like,
that I
how
told
did
you,
you
I
do this?
think, yeah, it's like a SD approach, like just hack, parts of it. That's what we did last that time because none of us had like any ML background. So what is the most basic thing that you can do is what we did. So yeah, it was like a rewarding experience, but definitely something that piqued my interests in this field.
I can imagine like if you have zero knowledge about that, but then you manage to hack something together in a couple of days just by Googling and trying different tutorials, and then it works at the end,
Yeah.
like be quite rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. I think also currently we have like lot of information all around the web. That time the information was also limited, so easier to kind of go evaluate all your 4, 5, 10 options and then just go ahead with one instead of hitting your head against 100 possible solutions, right?
Ah.
That is another downside.
So you're saying that before it was easier because there were like only a handful of articles.
Yes, and anything that you do would come out as innovative because
Uh-huh.
not many people were, into this field. Yeah.
Mm, interesting. And so probably these days people wouldn't worry about these things, right? They would just,
I guess
use an
so. I
LLM.
think the first thing people would do is just, as you mentioned, ask any of the vision LLMs to do this for you.
Is it something you do now these days? Like, you're doing something with LLMs right now, right? Or
Yeah, but as I said, I started with vision, but now I'm deeply into NLP. So not, uh, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm doing anything much on the vision side.
or what do you do now?
Currently, I'm more into my team is specifically focused on benchmarking LLMs. So, my team at JP Morgan, we talk to a lot of model providers, vendors like OpenAI, Anthropic. We have regular meetings with them, Meta. We take their models, we benchmark those models on our internal data sets. So, our team is like the first entry barrier into any model that the bank wants to ingest. We thoroughly benchmark on quality as well as on deployment, like latency throughput stuff, and then we publish developer guidances, blogs, do webinars for firm-wide developers, data scientists to share our experiences with the model, publish best practices. There's these models are really sensitive to prompting. Things keep changing. There are new model releasing almost every week now. So how do you keep up with these? We also negotiate with these model providers to give us like the best rates because there's a lot of usage within the firm. So yeah, I'm heavily into like benchmarking LLMs. That's my
I
bread
don't
and
know. Yeah, I didn't ask you before, but is it something you can talk about? Like, can you maybe tell us some more about the projects, or this is because I know in banks, some banks take these things very seriously, and you are not allowed to
yeah,
discuss to talk about the details of your work. Like,
yeah.
I'm wondering if it's the case, or you
I
can
think
tell
we
us.
can talk about the published work that we have. So
Yeah.
that's also a similar domain. Benchmarking can be done on different aspects, like you can do on the traditional NLU stuff, you can do on long context, you can do on code generation capabilities, math capabilities, go into multimodal stuff.
Mhm.
So my focus for the published work was on the long context capabilities. So, these models claim that they have this huge context window of 128K, but can they really, read a 200 or 500 page book and give you the correct answer as they claim to be? So delving deep into that. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that since it's published.
So, short answer, can they read a 500-page book and give an answer?
Uh, I'll I'll say yes and no. Yes on easier data sets and no on
Uh-huh.
real data sets. So if you read the published work or the public benchmarks, they are really positive. They really say the models are getting better with time. But there is this concept of artificial tasks or not like artificially simplified tasks, which makes it kind of easier for the model. But when you just use the same model in real world, especially on, specialized domains like maybe healthcare or finance, you start to see pitfalls of these models at longer contexts.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Let's say now, after we finish recording this podcast, I get the transcript and put it to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, this is the transcript of our conversation. Can you answer the questions,
Mhm.
my questions based on the transcript I gave?"
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it will work fine because like it will be only 1 hour. I don't know how many pages it translates, but I'm wondering if I, let's say, take any Andrew Huberman podcast. Like I was
Mhm.
listening to one of the episodes the other day. It's
Yeah.
like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Like it's probably half of the book. So and then
Yeah.
it's like the topics are like they go deep sometimes. Like sometimes they talk about research, like latest research. So I'm wondering if the model will be able to actually correctly answer questions there, or what
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, I have two opinions on that. So one is in our studies because it's hard to say, at what range in the context window do the models fall. So we kind of split it into like less than 32K tokens and then greater than 32K tokens. There's a clear dip like around that. So 32K tokens is typically, we decided that range because at least in the bank, we have all our use cases usually falling within 32K thousand tokens. So as you said, maybe this transcript, in my experience, would be way lesser than that. But maybe the Huberman podcast would be much greater. So that is one thing. Like maybe if it's a shorter input that you give to the model, it's better. And as you go, like you really push the boundary up to 128K, that's where you start to see these falls in the model capabilities. Other second thing is the natural language aspect of things. So if you give these models like to summarize or ask some questions, it's easy for it to kind of, just make up stuff. And it's hard for you also to objectively verify whether it's correct or not. Versus the tasks that we evaluate the models on, they are very objective, something like you can do auto evals on. So there's no concept of subjectivity there or like string, for this one, you would do like a Rouge score or something like that. But what we do is very specific, like precision recall on specific. Yeah, we can talk more about the task, but I think that's another aspect of it. Like that's the realistic task that I was saying. Like just doing it in natural language, the model will definitely give you something, and you might think, "Oh, looks nice," because it will
Until you
still be.
start reading.
It will still be grounded somewhere in the context, but it might not be exactly correct.
Uh, like, should we, like, is RAG dead? Like, I'm just wondering. So, the
Mhm.
approach before these long context models were
Yeah.
available would be to chunk, like, every
Yeah.
page is a document. You chunk it, you index it, you ask a
Yeah.
question, then you retrieve relevant pages, then LLM summarizes these pages, and you get the answer, right?
Yes. So
Um,
even when we try to use it in our bank, because now we know that these models fail at, around this 64K context. Although we are using these fancy 128K models, we do the same thing that you said. We chunk it because we know up to this point the models don't fail usually. So we chunk it and then, do whatever is the downstream processing.
mhm. And this is related to the paper you published, right?
Yes.
It's this was the paper that we talked about, this EMNLP. The name of the paper is Systematic Evaluation of Long Context LLMs on Financial Concepts.
Correct.
So that's exactly the paper, and this is what we are talking about right now, right?
Yes. Yes. This is exactly. Yes.
Did you like writing the paper?
Yes. In fact, it was like I mean, I had some publications back when I was studying, but they were not core into NLP. They were all over the place because, as I said, I started out with data science, spent some time in vision. So all my papers were like all over the place. So this was something that was really rewarding. And also, it's like a ACL conference, which is really reputed in the community. So that was really nice. Yeah.
ACL is something computer linguistics.
Yes. Association for Computational Linguistics. Yes.
I did my master's also. It was related to NLP. So I was
Mhm.
working with mathematical formulas in Wikipedia. And I
Yeah.
remember this abbreviation from those
Oh,
days, ACL.
yeah.
It's like one of the coolest people, right?
Yeah, it's really top tier, coveted, highly filtered, and yeah, really smart and brilliant people, right? Like Andrew and G, all of these people attend these conferences. So you can imagine, yeah.
Cool. And this is pretty rare
Sorry,
from
what?
what I see. Like this is pretty rare from what I see to work on a paper working at a company. So typically when
Hmm.
you work at a company, um, like you are concerned about other things. Like
Hmm.
at most, maybe you just write a blog post or give a talk on a conference. But here you wrote a paper, a scientific paper, uh, for a scientific conference. Like, yeah, I'm wondering why. Like, is it common for people at JP Morgan Chase to do this, or
Yeah, I think so. The vertical that I work with is MLCOE, as I was saying. So we are a group of like about 150 odd people. So we are not tied to a single use case or product. We do work on products. We are heavily tied to those, but we also have this liberty of some creative liberty because we do a lot of new stuff. So if anything new comes up, we do publish, although it's in the industry track and we are not allowed to release the data. But a lot of us keep coming across like new findings all across. So our teams are divided into NLP, graphs, and then multimodal, vision, speech. We have like specialized teams for all of these. So very active and smart people in each of these groups. So if anything new comes up, there is always this um, encouragement, I would say, to go ahead and publish your work, but it comes on addition to your, regular work. Like it's like an extra
uh,
effort. Yes.
okay,
So there's no focus on that, but it's always encouraged.
extra effort? Because I know that writing a paper, especially for a top tier conference,
Mm.
is not easy,
Yeah.
right? And then if it comes as as extra effort to what you already do,
Yeah.
well, let's say you work 40 hours per week, and then you probably need another 40 hours per week for a paper. Like,
Yeah.
how do you manage that?
Yeah, this one was definitely something that me and my manager we were excited about because when we were trying to like look up things, look up the existing research, we found limited resources. So we kind of knew this would be like a unique contribution. So we, yeah, I think it was a lot motivated by knowing the scope that this is a underexplored area. Maybe like for things that are well developed, it needs a lot more thinking through and stuff like that. But for us, as soon as we found out something in our experiments, we were like, okay, this thing needs to go out in the public. People are not aware of this.
Yeah. And so since our conversation is about building a strong career in data,
Yeah.
even though we talk specifically about your career, but
Yeah.
I think this is really good for a career to have publications because most of us will just go to work, I don't know, do some stuff that are things that are related to work,
Hmm.
but then at the end we don't share the results. And even if we do, it's typically not top tier scientific conferences, right? So how can we force ourselves to go this extra mile when it's extra work and it's not simple work, it's complicated work. So how do you motivate yourself? So you said that there is a unique contribution, but still, like I imagine that you could be pretty drained after work.
Hmm.
And now you also, because writing papers is super difficult, at least for me. Like I
Correct. Correct.
remember being a master's student and like I really hated working on my thesis. Like, yeah, that was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. I when I chose my master's, I had this option of doing a thesis, and I was, although in undergrad it's much easier, but I was so bad at it. I was like, I don't want to do like a thesis option, like
Hmm.
it takes so much from you. But yeah, as I said, I think for me, my manager was a really good motivator since he had more experience in this field. So he was pretty certain that we should definitely put this out. I had my times and moments of doubt where you feel, oh, is this worth it? I'm putting so much effort. But having like some guidance or some motivator apart from you yourself is really helpful. And also, like, published work is always, even if it's not accepted to any conference, we were okay with just like putting it out on archive, because unique contributions are always, they will shine out if nothing else. So we were certain of like just putting it out on, putting a good quality paper on archive. If they get accepted, great. If they do not, it's fine. But yeah, I think having the motivation to just share it to the community is nice. It's hard, but it's nice.
Yeah, so I remember I took part in a competition, and then after the competition, I wrote summary, and then without thinking too much, just uploaded to archive.
Mm,
And then people cite it, like they keep
yeah,
citing it even now. And the
yeah,
competition was something like fake news detection, something like that.
yeah.
Like
That's
even
great.
now, even today, like I recently discovered that there is one more citation. It's not like overly cited.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like 10 or maybe, but it was something I didn't really think about. I was just,
yeah.
okay, I have this piece of writing. Let me just quickly put it to LaTeX, generate a PDF, and upload it to, well, in Archive, you upload the LaTeX file. Anyways, I didn't really think much about this. I just uploaded this and then forgot,
Yeah.
and then discovered that people cited, and I was like, wow, so cool.
Yeah, I think that's what I did in my undergrad. Like, when I was first into this field, so people were like, "Oh, let's just upload it there." I'm like, who is even going to, look at, there are hundreds and hundreds of publications out there. People do want to trust credible sources. So I understand, but even archive, they have like really high standards of, you can't just upload anything, they do see that your paper is well formatted, etc. And then you need to be endorsed by existing members. So it's still, I would say it's still a regulated community. So anything, even if you upload to archive, it's nice. So yeah.
I think, yeah, now I remember that I needed to ask a friend to actually endorse
Correct.
me.
Yes. Yeah.
There were some categories where you didn't need endorsement. Like there, I think, so for machine learning, you needed endorsement, but for information retrieval back then, you did not. Maybe now things
Oh,
changed. So I think
maybe
I,
I don't know.
I just, of my earlier work, like my thesis, for example, I just uploaded
Mm,
to information retrieval because
mm.
like it's kind of related to NLP to some extent.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. I
Yeah.
uploaded to I think computer science, and that required endorsement. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think so from what I understood by talking to you right now, you were always you were looking to go the extra mile. So when you were working as a software developer, a software engineer, you were taking part in these hackathons, right? So now you write research papers, even though it's extra work, it's on top of what you do, but you still do this. So what it means to me that you engage in all these other activities, extra activities in the space. So how do you find motivation to do that, and how it was beneficial for you?
Yeah, I think in the hackathon space, like going back to that era 10 years back, they were, as I was saying, they were very limited resources, and I was pretty active on the web that time to, uh, self-learn. I think at that time, self-learning was really crucial for me. I'd just gotten out of my undergrad. And I'm not sure if you remember, but we had this conversation back in 2020. I reached out to you randomly on LinkedIn,
I'm
and
checking it right now. Yeah, it was on LinkedIn. Yeah,
yeah,
we talked for a while. Like it's very long.
yeah,
So what did we
it
talk about?
completely random. I think I was looking out, I don't know, I was doing some pet project and I wanted some help around, I think Docker, AWS Lambda, something in ML ops. And you were doing these Zoom camps back then, right? And there was, as I was saying, very limited resources, and I wanted quick, easy, trusted, credible help. So I went through your tutorial, found it interesting. I think I halted at some step because I wanted something different from what you had shown in the tutorial. So I just like reached out to you saying that, hey, can you help me on this? I'm not able to figure out. And I think that's what I used to do then. Like quickly seek help, self learn. And it's very interesting because I completely forgot about it after reaching out to you for help. We talked about a little, you gave me plenty of resources. I got done with it. I thanked you and I forgot about it until this session came up. And I realized, oh my God, I've spoken to Alexei back then. And I remember talking in detail about ML ops. And then at that time, we also discussed about my roles as, I was doing some mentoring stuff and instructor. I was also developing a course with Data Camp. So yeah, we talked a lot all over the place, but that also keeps me motivated because I keep seeing people, doing so many new things. You were doing this Zoom camp. I was doing my own stuff as my pet project. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's
Great.
cool. So yeah, I
Throwback.
now went through our conversation and I have this feeling of nostalgia. Like all these things that we were doing, like we were talking about deploying with AWS Lambda.
Yeah.
And back then, I think in AWS, they just there was a new feature that you could put Lambda inside a Docker container
Yes.
and serve it. And like it was, I remember making a post about this on LinkedIn and it received like, I don't know, 500 likes in a minute. Well, I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah.
yeah, like people really like this stuff back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Uh, so what you say is you try to be active, you self-learn, and then when you're stuck, you reach out to people, you make connections, and like all this stuff motivates you to do even more, and then also give back
Correct.
to the community.
Yeah, sometimes I feel I'm doing too much, like I get too much information out on the web. I feel, oh, I want to do this, oh, this guy is so cool. I want to also contribute here. And that time, since I told you I was in a SD profile, my aim was to become like at that time this term of full stack MLE was really hot, to know everything from data processing to data modeling, like doing your actual modeling stuff, and then also deployment. I was really interested in that. So I used to, as I said, for you were publishing stuff on ML ops a lot, so you were like my go-to resource for all of this. And then I had people to look into more on the data processing side. I would really speak to them a lot to
Hmm.
get pipeline built.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
time, yeah, I was really inspired by this full stack MLE role.
Hmm. And today, are you still inspired by this role, or maybe we
Uh,
don't need this role anymore?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if we don't need this role anymore, but I think now I've found my piece more into NLP.
Hmm.
Long forgotten roots of SD. I do work on some SD stuff, but not so much, I would say. Um, yeah, I think I found my calling more in NLP.
Yeah, for me, the main idea behind these so-called full stack engineers or data scientists, whoever,
Mm.
is not being afraid of things you don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah.
Like there are things you need to do, and who else, if not you, are going to take them, right? So you
Yeah.
can just take responsibility and say, okay, I'll try my best to actually do them. And if you're not afraid of doing everything like from backend to front end, even if you
Mhm.
have no clue how this thing actually work, but
Yeah.
you're not afraid to figure this out,
Yeah.
then you're full stack. And I think
Yeah.
people like that even today are still like, especially today, because you have AI tools that can help you,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and also early in your career, it's hard, but it's nice to get your hands dirty with everything. So then you don't feel, that, oh, this is something that I'm unaware of, or this does not fall into my purview. And I think now, at least in my role, we use Streamlit a lot because as soon as you develop something, you don't want to wait for, and how do you pass it on to the leadership to try it out, etc., or gather feedback. You don't want to be dependent on the engineering team. So Streamlit, I feel, at least for me, it has been a really valuable quick spin up tool to just pass it around to the people to see and gather feedback on whatever you've built.
Yeah, I remember creating React applications,
Mm,
which like with Streamlit would have been
yeah,
much easier.
yeah,
Right? Instead of spending 1 hour on figuring out how to do like React stuff, you just
correct. Yes.
Streamlit. But now these days, like with all this AI, like, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But from what I hear from you, so you were interested in the full stack MLE role, which let you discover, like, let
Mm,
you play with different areas,
yes.
and you were able to do some things everywhere, and then
Yes.
eventually you realized, okay, like it's interesting, but the thing for me that I like the most is NLP, right?
Is what?
NLP.
Is NLP. Yeah, I think it's also like a consequence of my master's. So when I went into master's, I definitely didn't have this thing in my mind that I'm going to like go deeper into NLP. But because the way my course was structured or the people I interacted with, it really influenced me. And also I was a part of my program was a part of LTI. So within CMU, Language Technologies Institute is highly coveted. Institute, they work deeply on language and speech technologies. So both of them are related. So because of like the people I was surrounded with, I think that also influenced. So yeah, um, going into masters, I did not have this thought, but at the end of 2 years, that's what I realized. Yeah.
And so when we started this conversation, this interview, we talked about the hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
And then we jumped, I asked you a question about what you do, because I think you were talking about something. So previously it was vision, now it's NLP. So I asked you, what do you do? And we
Yeah.
come to kind of jumped like 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but as we continued talking, you mentioned that you also did mentoring.
Mhm.
You were in a instructor in data camp. Can you tell us more about these extra activities you did in addition to your main, I don't know, like main activity? Because you worked, you studied, but then you did some extra work. So what was this work?
Yeah, sure. All of this work was definitely on the side, and I think it's just like connecting the dots. As I was saying, I was in my sometime when I used to be free, I used to attend Zoom camps like yours and then different others. One thing that I attended was like a web scraping tutorial, and it was always fascinating back then to like web scrape. You had these restrictions on websites who would block you, etc. So for some reason, I was looking up data sets on Kaggle, and I realized there were a lot of data sets on App Store, like Apple App Store, but not comprehensive ones on Google Play Store. I don't know why, but at that time, at least, App Store was a little, I'm not very sure, but it looked, at least its UI looked much simpler than the Google Play Store, which had like dynamic loading as you scroll, more apps show up. Versus for Apple, it was like a static thing you do, like show all, and everything shows up in the UI. So I figured maybe that's like the reason which is creating a challenge in like web scraping this stuff. Again, this dates back to 2019, so I'm just speaking from memory. But That's what I just tried, and I just put out the data set on Kaggle after scraping it. And it became, at one point, it was like the highest voted data set on Kaggle after the COVID data set, because 2019, it had like 10, 15K upvotes. And currently, I think it's 10th highest. I just checked it before this webinar. But at some point, it was trending at the second highest. So, yeah, just stuff like that, right? Like, I think maybe it's luck. I think we started our conversation with that, but definitely some motivation there to do something unique. And then I published it out on Kaggle, and I just wrote out a simple notebook doing a basic EDA, some modeling on that. And then I had someone from DataCamp reach out to me saying, because it was trending, so it was garnering a lot of interest. So I had someone from DataCamp reach out to me saying that they would want to onboard this as a paid project for learners. And at COVID, self learning or this virtual online learning was at its peak. Everyone was sitting at home and doing this stuff. So I got a lot of attention on that project. I firstly made like a guided version of that, which had some guidelines to guide the learners through it. Then I also created an unguided version of it, and things just like connected one after the other. So, and then once I got this opportunity, I had like more people contact me to do like some mentoring stuff, um, coaching for young aspirants. I was also young. I wouldn't call I was like an established person in this field,
Mhm.
but yeah, whatever I could do to help people get into it. Yeah.
It's really amazing, and yeah. So we were talking about luck, and maybe yes, we can attribute this to luck. But I remember talking to Eugene Yan.
Yes.
We had an interview with him
Yeah.
a while ago, and what he said about luck, I still remember. He said, like, imagine you want to shoot an arrow. Like you have a bow and you want to shoot an arrow, and then you have some goal, some thing where you want to do it. If you don't shoot any arrows, then
Correct.
you're not going to hit the target, right?
Yeah.
But then if you shoot 100, then maybe at least one of them will, reach the target.
100%.
But you
Yes.
need to be shooting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think that's what this call about, this opportunity. Like, there are opportunities standing at your door. You just need to like open and peek out.
and for you, that was like this tutorial that you attended. You scraped Google Play Store, and then it had a snowball effect of
Mhm.
bringing more and more opportunities.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I think Data Camp was something that really highlighted my contribution to this. And then, of course, I got more confidence that maybe, I can reach out to more people. So I started also getting involved. I also reached out to a lot of people on my own to have these opportunities on the side. I got interested in this community aspect of things. So I started with the women in data science, and then small communities like that. They have like local regional chapters. And then I reached out to more industry players. To get more of this mentorship experience.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And then, what did you do as a mentor? What kind of things you helped people with?
Oh, I think all around the place. So starting with in one of the organizations, I was literally like an instructor. So I created my own modules to like to teach basic data science, EDA, all the way up to modeling. I think we went from regression to classification, covering I think the last thing we covered was decision trees, random forest boosting, that kind of stuff. But all of this was really targeted at, of course, introducing the candidate to the module, but also with a focus on interviews. So all of these industrial organizations, they target, they offer these packages that you collaborate with us, and then we help you in your interview prep. So a lot of mock interviews along with teaching, and then resume refinements, um, LinkedIn reviews. And so, with the other organizations like Women in Data Science, it was targeted at just like open mentoring. you can come and talk whatever at whatever stage you are in your life. So one time I had this really nice conversation with a college student who was really brilliant and smart, but there were a lot of things for me also to learn from her. She was applying to like, she'd already Googled, interned with Google and stuff. So I was also equally curious, about the interview process and stuff. So just open mentoring sessions with these communities. So come and talk whatever you want. So it's like a two-way exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you have an opinion about that. So some might say, yeah, but you got lucky. Your data set turned out to be trending and all these opportunities happened to you. Like, what would you say? Like, how would you um, encourage people to still try? Because like
Yeah.
it's unlikely if I just do a data set, it will become trending. I actually uploaded quite a few data sets on Kaggle.
Yeah.
None of them were trending.
Yeah.
Like I can check how many upvotes I had, but like even
Yeah.
if it's, I don't know, 10, 20, like it didn't really make that much difference
I
at that.
understand. Yeah.
So, but still, I feel like my contribution was
Hmm.
quite good. So,
Yes.
what would you say, like, how can we still, yes, there is some luck, maybe, how to say, contribution of luck, but
Hmm.
still, like, maybe even without that, you would have done many, many other things.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about this?
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned luck because, as you said, it was also, at that time, as I said, COVID time was really hot. People were really active on Kaggle that time. Maybe the time factor is a luck, but um, I started by saying that it was not a random decision to just get up one day and scrape, Google Play Store. I had been looking into it. Uh, um, I'm speaking from memory, but I do remember this thing from 5 years back that I spent good amount of time to see what data sets are existing on Kaggle, and then why is this, missing? It stood out to me that it was missing. So it was um it was something that went into my brain, making me think that evaluating all possibilities and then figuring this out that maybe this is a gap, and then a gap in a way also comparing it with the uh, Apple App Store, that okay, there are data sets for this but not for this one. So there's definitely something, and it was not, just like a matter of a code or piece that I wrote and it did the magic. There were bots who were blocking me. I had a lot of emails from people saying that I got some, I don't know, I don't remember, but I did get some notifications saying that you need something about, blocking, and then this is not allowed, etc., etc. I found my ways out. I spoke to a lot of legal people there. One of my friends told me that you need to license it under this, otherwise you can be in trouble, something like that. So
It was a
it
lot of
was
work.
just, yeah, it was not just like scraping it and uploading it. Yeah. So there's luck, but there's also some thought that I
Mhm.
would say analytical thought that went into why I want to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is even more important than the result, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yes, it got trending and a lot more people found you, but because of the effort you put there, like you would also put similar amount of effort into a new project, and
Yeah.
then one way or another,
Yeah. And
you
you
would
can't
probably
predict
follow the
these
same
things, right?
path.
You can't predict these. Yeah. You just have to do it. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just checked my Kaggle data sets. So the largest one has 171 upvotes,
Mhm.
which I think is decent. So it was a data set with images of different clothing like pants, shorts, t-shirts.
Mhm.
We're doing some um, image classification back then.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like,
I
yeah,
actually might have, I don't know, because at some point I was also building a fashion recommender system just as a pet project. So I did look into a lot of these cloth data sets on Kaggle. I might be one of the upvoters because I did download a ton of data sets from Kaggle on these clothes.
yeah. The reason I had this data set that it was also it's not like I woke up and thought, okay, let me just do a data set with clothing items. No, like there
Yeah.
was a reason,
Yeah.
and the reason was that so I was writing a book, and then I needed to actually include pictures of the data set in the book,
Hmm.
and all the other clothing data sets were scraped.
Yes.
And then, okay, like if I use a data set, let's say from Amazon or Zalando or some other company, then images belong to them.
Yeah, you
So
have this
then
right
if
to.
I print them in a book, then I might get into troubles, right? So then I thought, then I need to create a data set that has a good license that allows me to actually do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, one of my friend was into a lot of open source contribution that time, and he pointed me out, that there are these 5 types of licenses. You should go quickly and put this on your data set, otherwise you could be on trouble. Something I remember discussing with him in detail.
And so we have a few questions. How can a career pivoter, somebody
Mhm.
who's changing career changer, without a computer science degree or domain background, break into data?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of okay, when we talk about data, there are a lot of data roles, at least in the industry that I know. I'm in Seattle. It's a hub of Microsoft and Amazon. Lot of people here are from non CS backgrounds. Couple of them in my own friend circle, all working for these big tech giants in data roles. So I think the main thing that comes to my mind, if you're completely non tech person, technical product manager is something that people find easier to get into because you have this business acumen on your hand, you have those skills, and all you need to do is know a little bit about how software engineering works, not like actual coding or stuff like that, but just how SQL works or things like that. That's a very good entry point, technical product manager. My friend who did like civil engineering did his master's also in civil engineering, and then got into senior tech product manager in Amazon. So yeah, I think product manager is one thing. And then if you are early in your career, I believe like BI roles, that's also quick, dirty, some skills of that you can quickly check, like Tableau or basic SQL stuff, and then just get going on learning on your own. Self-learning is crucial, but I feel those roles still require some effort because you do need to spend some time hardcore learning those technologies. But product manager, I think it's easier to get through.
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, so we talked about Eugene, and Eugene also lives in Seattle.
Yes.
As yeah, so
Yeah.
cool. I didn't realize that you're from the same city. And yeah, but it's a big city, right? It's not like you can randomly like run into people on the street.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very close to the area where all these Amazon offices are. So yeah, every day I do come across someone familiar, either from my undergrad, masters, or just from LinkedIn. Yeah, very, very
Mm.
active people. Yeah.
So another question, can you please highlight mentorship networking opportunities which were helpful?
So is this about getting those opportunities for to be a mentor?
So the way I interpret this question is you had some mentorship opportunities, but then
Yes.
some of them ended being helpful for you in some way.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think so. Getting those mentor roles is typically just through reach outs, cold emailing, LinkedIn messages, stuff like that. And once you build like certain rapport with these people, these are huge communities, then it becomes a word of mouth. So if you have done like good networking, put a good name to your work, then it becomes a word of mouth, and that's how you kind of excel in these community driven programs. Because cold emailing or these stuff can get you into it, but like to build a good trustworthy relationships or networking as we call it, it's mainly through word of mouth in my opinion. Yeah.
And actually, so now again, speaking of the earlier conversation, So I scrolled up and saw that we talked about mentorship. And the
Yes.
reason I asked you about that is because I was doing some mentorship myself back then. So I was interested in
Yeah.
your perspective on these things. And for me, what was helpful is maybe just structuring my knowledge around things. So people come to you with requests,
Mm.
and then you try to help. And then this way, when you speak, when you say things out loud, it helps to structure these things in your head, and then it becomes easier to use this information like in other settings. That was the main kind of highlight for me. And then like when people 1 year after that, right? Hey, like thanks because of the interview, because of the session we did together. Like now I work at this company, so thanks a lot. You changed my life, and like
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I think that kind of exposure I only got with my open-ended mentorship experiences. Since you work independently, you had a lot of this, but I was tied to like more formal, organized structures with these different
Yeah.
organizations that I was working with. So there were set expectations and goals, less open-ended stuff, but there is more fun in the open-ended stuff because, as you say, like it's just a normal conversation. It's not like, oh, I'm going to, give out to you some magic tricks that is going to change your life. But when you hear back from people some years down the line that it helped, that's a really nice feeling that mentorship rewards you with.
Yeah, thank you. So, another question. In relations to Alexei's question on successful data sets, I wanted to ask Lavanya what she considers to be the other important element of a portfolio for data science. So basically the question is, okay, data set is one option, but what else or what instead of a data set we can include in our portfolio?
Oh, yes. I think the data set itself, I don't think it's even mentioned on my resume because once you go out for these roles, these are like your pet projects. It's nice to show your curiosity for this stuff or like just talk about it at the end of the interview. But it's like sadly not going to get you the job per se because those requirements are different. To build your portfolio, I feel so one thing is like you can stand out in the community through these pet projects and your extra stuff. But if you're talking about portfolio in terms of targeting jobs, I think that's a different kind of effort that is required. So yeah, maybe like this requires a follow-up question or a clarification on what portfolio are you talking about? Is it more like, just standing out or building networking opportunities or more targeted at job
Maybe
applications?
let's cover two, like if we want both of them. So if we want to uh, target networking, how the portfolio should look like, and if we want to target job opportunities, how it should look like.
Yeah, okay, sure. Let's talk about just
Mm.
networking aspect of it. So honestly, none of the things that I did gave me any jobs or roles. Obviously just worked with two companies, but none of them like got me anything from my extra stuff that I did. I definitely talked about it at the end of my interview because I wanted to showcase, that I am genuinely intrigued or interested in these pieces. So that's a good thing that you can add at the end of your interview. But portfolio building for this stuff, I think just start out as we were discussing earlier in the session that quick hands dirty self-learning, doing a lot of stuff on your own, exploring stuff. And one of these things will click, something or the other will happen if you are putting in genuine effort. So portfolio building, data set scraping was cool back then. I'm not sure how many people are still doing it now. But now I think there's a lot of focus on people publishing tutorials on RAG, agentic stuff. A lot of buzz around agents, right now. So anything unique that you can find out in that space is definitely going to stand out in this current world. But this is obviously limited to NLP. I'm not sure about other domains. Um, Portfolio building. Mentorship would help some both ways, like being a mentor or a mentee. It's basically like a brainstorming of ideas with like-minded people. So as you got from me that, oh, web scraping data set helped me. Maybe for someone else, something else worked out. So they could share that with you, right? Talking to multiple people, just friendly opinions, suggestions, guidance, that could be another thing. In terms of job building, I think that's a very different, in my experience, at least I'm talking about the US economy, it's very different. It's highly competitive. So, um, job building, profile building for job search, targeted at job search is going to be lot of lead code, and lot of conceptual drilling, going deep into the concept so that you are able to answer all interview questions precisely. There's no beating around the bush. And then mock interviews. Yeah.
But this more for preparation to pass the interview. But I guess when it comes to portfolio, there are some projects that could be.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's say if I want to work at Amazon, then I can think what are the problems that Amazon solves,
Mhm.
and then do a project. I don't know, maybe a recommender system or I don't know, search. Maybe Amazon is a bad example because it's so huge and there is everything. I mean, maybe there is a smaller e-commerce company and you can get some e-commerce data set and let's say do a project on search, right? And then, especially if you want to work in this area and when you have an interview with them, you can say, okay, yeah, like I maybe don't have the relevant professional experience, but I did this project on search, which
Yeah.
we can talk about. And then all of a sudden you have things to discuss on the interview.
Yeah. For sure. I would just add to that that sometimes, like when I also interview people for roles, we do value in like some industrial experience more than like pet projects, because only because of scale, because when you are doing something on your own, there is no real testing or like no feedback from actual users. So you can just come and tell me, I got like 90% accuracy, but that's not verified, right? Versus, so I understand if you're starting out new, it's like a vicious circle. You want to get into the industry, and then I'm asking you to get a industry experience to be able to get into the industry. So what I'm trying to say is that you can still do like pet projects, but be associated with like some or the other organization. At my time, I was looking into this organization called OMDENA, Omdena. So they do like small projects, but they are tied, they have industry experience, industry experts looking over your projects. So they organize students and people into like data scientists, project manager, industry experts, and all of them work on a single project apart from their regular roles, whatever they are working on. So that's a good way to like showcase that you are still building your portfolio, but it's not completely your pet project, right? There are others looking into it, equally invested into the same project, and it has some actual impact in the real world. So there are many organizations like such who do these stuff. So for applications targeted at job building, I think that's a nice way to build your portfolio.
Yeah, amazing. And on this note, I realized that I'm late for
Oh,
another
yes,
meeting,
you're on time.
so I need to run. But that was an amazing conversation, Lavanya. So thanks a lot for
Yeah.
uh, doing that, for agreeing to this interview, and I had a lot of fun talking to you, and also some memories from those times a couple of years ago. So thanks a lot for finding time to do this, and yeah, I wish you success.
Yeah,
Some
thank you
luck
so
too.
much. I'm
But
sure we're going to stay in touch even more.
yeah.
No more nostalgia chats.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, also to everyone, thanks for joining us today, for asking questions, for being active. Enjoy the rest of your week and